Welcome to the Coach Zing Show, helping you work less, earn more, and reach more people through creative content marketing. Join the Coach Zingers community, where the world's best coaches, therapists, authors, and speakers come together to discover the latest trends, forge powerful joint ventures, and grow their business together. Go to coachzing.com/community to join. And now, here's your host, Doug Foresta.
Hello and welcome back to the Coach Zing Show. This is your host, Doug Foresta, and this is the show, as always, where we help you, coaches, therapists, speakers, and authors to work less, earn more, and help more people through creative content marketing. And my guest with me today, we have a wonderful expert. Esther Kiss is my guest, and I'll say a little bit about her and bring her on. But she is someone who is truly an expert when it comes to helping other people get their message out in the world in a bigger way. So I know you'll get a lot out of this episode. Esther Kiss is the producer and host of the popular podcast Born to Influence, the marketing show where she interviews highly successful entrepreneurs and New York Times bestselling authors about their marketing and PR strategies. She has interviewed guests such as Gary Vaynerchuk, Perry Marshall, Joe Pulizzi, and others. When working with clients through her one-of-a-kind publicity agency, she helps experts like coaches such as yourself, coaches, consultants, authors, and speakers to get exposure for an extended period of time by placing them on the right online media outlets, which include podcasts, online radio, webinars, and other presentations for telesummits and private paid mastermind groups. To help her clients get more leads and sales for their product, service, or book launch, she introduces them to A players, such as the guests of Born to Influence, for cross-promotion and long-term collaboration. And you can visit her at borntoinfluence.com. That's borntoinfluence.com. But you can also, we'll mention this again later in the show, but there's a free assessment that you can take at borntoinfluence.com/assessment. And that is a free quiz to see if publicity makes sense for you at this time. Esther Kiss, welcome to the Coach Zing Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Doug.
Thank you. So, I want to start with, obviously, like I said, you're a perfect guest for the show because this is what you do. Can you say a little bit about what is your favorite way? I'm curious. I guess I'll ask you first for your own business, but then I'm curious for your clients too. What is your favorite way to get the message out about what you do to the people that most need to hear it?
Well, I really like talking to people, which is very, very weird considering that I'm a major introvert and I don't go to conferences usually or really big gatherings most of the time. But what I do like to do is connect with people through either Facebook or private groups, either through private messages or through private Facebook groups. Or in many cases, my public content marketing strategy is doing interviews on podcasts like this one, for example, where I get to share the message of what we do and how it can help that particular target audience. And at the same time, it also lets them know about what I do as well.
Well, I think that's an interesting point, though, which is, do you have to be this extrovert? I think people think that, if I'm going to do interviews or I'm going to go into publicity tours, do I need to be this massive extrovert in order to be successful at that?
No, absolutely not. You can do it either way, whatever your personality type is. It's important to be aware of who you are, of course, so that you do it in a way that is comfortable for you. Like, for example, let's just say if you don't like to be on camera, then you don't do YouTube shows, right? You stick with the audio podcast. But I would encourage you either way to do as many interviews as you can in a way that makes sense with the rest of your business strategy. So really, more than personality, what you need to look at is what does my target audience need to hear and believe in order to want more? And how can that message fit into the particular media format where I'm doing the interviews? So let's just say, for example, let's say you were to go to be interviewed on Entrepreneur on Fire, which is one of the top business podcasts on iTunes. Well, it's 35 minutes, including the commercials and including John, the host, talking. So really, it's about 20 minutes. And he asks the exact same questions from every single guest. Right. So you really have to be able to answer those questions in a way that is good for the format of the show, but also that it lands with the audience that will potentially become your clients and customers. So there is a little bit of preparation. And then, of course, the other extreme is where you might go to an hour-long show that is completely not formatted, not structured. It's a very fun conversation. You may have a few laughs with the host, but then you have to be strategic about the message you share and what kind of points you bring up, because it's easy to go off on tangents. That's one of the biggest traps with the unformatted shows. And then you don't really have a good piece of content that you could plug into your funnel. Because one of the biggest things that you need to do do with any kind of publicity is look at all of your media appearances as content that then you can plug into the rest of your marketing. So it's not just the one-time appearances on any given show or a blog article where you guest posted or whatever. That's the bonus leads and sales that come from it, from that one particular publication. But then when you take the content and you repurpose it and plug it into a funnel that already works for you, that's where you really see the results in terms of leads and sales.
Can you say more about that? In other words, what would that look like? So I think that's a really good point. In other words, so I do, let's say, a podcast interview, and then what? What would that look like in terms of plugging that into a funnel?
Yeah, so there is plenty of ways. But let's just say, for example, you're selling through webinars. We have a lot of coaches here in the audience, and it's a very common marketing strategy, of course, that you do a webinar, do a presentation about your methodology, and then make an offer at the end. Now, between the time that somebody registers for a webinar and when they actually come to see your presentation, there is a few days usually. So you would be sending them content via email, and you're sending them articles and whatever that is related to what you'll be offering. Now, if you can also supplement that with interviews that you've done where you're positioning yourself as an expert who is being interviewed on other people's platforms, it will build that rapport and that relationship with that audience. So imagine for someone who is following you on social media or they're on your email list, if they see this consistently, that you'll keep being interviewed over and over again, now on this show, now on that one, now on the next one, in their mind, it will feel like you're everywhere. And so by the time they come to see your presentation and they see your offer, they're ready to buy because they really, really trust you.
Another question I wanted to ask you as you were talking about this that I was thinking about is, you help people with online publicity. And, I think about, for example, the coaching world there are lots and lots of coaches out there, but yet it is, in a way, sort of a niche world. What do you think are I know there are people who are like, I want to be on Oprah, or I want to be on, I want to be on The View, or some giant national show.
Yeah.
I'm curious, in terms of building my business, like if I'm a coach or a consultant, I'm curious about your thoughts about doing national media versus online media.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, because most people have this mentality that, well, the bigger the audience, the better my sales will be.
Right.
And that's just simply not true. So, for example, if you were to go on Oprah, definitely you will see a spike of traffic to your website, but that doesn't necessarily mean proportionally increase the leads and sales. So what you want to do is figure out what is your strategy? How does this PR strategy particularly fit in with what makes sense with your business model? So let's just say, for example, if you were to go after traditional media like TV and newspapers and print magazines and that sort of thing, that's great for branding and for credibility. So once you get to use those logos on your website, certainly when somebody goes there for the first time, it makes a better first impression because it really positions you as a very credible expert. Now with that, it's a much more competitive type of media to get into. It's not impossible, but it's more competitive. And the approach is very different. So with traditional media, you have to, because they're serving a mass market audience, you have to be very, very brief with your message, and you have to dumb it down. So it might be the top 5 mistakes, or the 2 things that you can say that will fit under a minute and a half into a little TV segment. So it has to be very, very broad and like a 50,000 view overview of what you're actually talking about. And also you're not allowed to make a pitch. So they'll mention your website for you, but that's it. Maybe if you have a book, they will, zoom in on that if you're doing, say, a TV interview in a morning news segment, but it's not something that you can talk about in depth. And there's nothing wrong with this kind of approach. You can do that for building credibility, but once you've done it 1 or 2 times and then you have that footage that you can again plug into the rest of your marketing, it's great for credibility. And for most people, it's enough. What will make a bigger impact in terms of leads and sales is if you get to be in front of the right target audience for an extended period of time. And that's why I like to focus, particularly for coaches and consultants, on online media, like, for example, podcast interviews, YouTube shows, telesummits, JV webinars, presentations for paid masterminds, for private Facebook groups. where you have a captive audience who are already motivated, who are looking to learn more about your expertise and your methodology. You get to talk to them for about a half an hour, maybe an hour. So you get to give them the same content that you would normally do with your educational marketing. But in this way, you're also building rapport and trust with them because you're making the host look good. You are there as a guest of someone who they already trust. So you have that borrowed credibility from that side as well.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that because like tomorrow, actually, I'm doing a call to a mastermind group. It's like 50, there's like 50 people, but I know that they're really loyal to the woman who's a coach. And I know that if she says, this is my friend Doug, and, he does podcasting, I know I'm better off I'm more excited about being in front of those 50 people and spending an hour with them than I would be about being on Oprah in terms of growing my business. Because like you said, I would probably get a lot more visibility and there's a huge credibility boost. But in terms of actual sales, I really think I'm going to do better being in front of those 50 people in an intimate setting.
Most probably. And the other thing too is like, this is a mastermind group. So obviously these people are paying to be there. They're working with a coach. So they're already the type of people who are motivated and invested in their own career and in their own business. And they want to learn more. They want to get better. This is the same for podcasts. Even though podcasts are free most of the time, except for some, like for example, Mixergy that goes behind a paywall after a certain period of time, most of them are free and available for anyone on iTunes. But studies show, and also the experience from myself and also from working with my clients, is that really when you're doing podcast interviews, you are in front of the most affluent part of the population. Typically people who earn 6 figures or more per household. They're technologically savvy. They're motivated. They are looking to better themselves. That's why even their drive time and their time on the treadmill at the gym, everything, they're using it for education. That's a very different mentality than somebody just, sitting on a couch and watching Oprah.
So the other thing I'm really curious about is, and I don't know the answer to this, which is about how did you get started in doing this really cool thing, which is helping experts get out there through online media? Like how did you come to this?
This was very much like a treasure hunt, going from clue to clue, figuring out what I wanted to do. Now, what happened was I have a background in marketing, about 15 years. And a couple of years ago, we launched the show Born to Influence with my friend Meta Miller. And at the time, I was doing marketing coaching and working with a lot of startups and small business owners, helping them with their marketing. But what I really wanted to do is to connect with very high-level players, people who have multi-million-dollar businesses or who are New York Times bestselling authors, and build the relationships and friendships with them so that eventually I'll be able to do JV deals, joint venture deals between them. That was the initial plan. So, what better way to do it than to offer and contribute to what their goals are at the moment. And many of them are authors. So the best way to do it is, of course, to launch a show and start interviewing them. And so I started doing that. And I noticed that every single time after I would stop the recording, after the interview was done, I would say that, hey, I know you have this book coming out or this product, this service that you're launching. Would you like to be on other shows as well? Thinking that, that they will be, of course, saying, yes, I'm helping them. And eventually we'll get to actually introducing them for JV deals as well. And every single time they would say yes. And at some point it dawned on me that, well, this is a business that I could do.
I can be charging for this.
Exactly. Because I've been connecting them with other podcasters, getting them on the biggest shows, and like, really, this is something that I should be charging for. So that's how it shifted from marketing to PR. But I still have that marketer's mindset in that PR generally is associated with branding and with credibility. I come from the direct response marketing approach, which is really how do we plug these interviews then into the rest of your funnel so that they really go hand in hand, they play together. And that's the best way how you can get the most results and the biggest bang for your buck for the time that you're spending on doing these interviews. Or particularly if you're, hired a publicist, you're actually paying money for them to get you on shows. So you want to make sure that you get that back and then some. And just to give you an example, one of my friends and client, Ryan Levesque, the author of the #1 national bestseller, Ask, we started working together from the first of the year, 2015. His book came out in April and it became a national bestseller. It was #1 on Amazon, on the LA Times list, on Publishers Weekly, basically all the lists. And then also it sold out in in Amazon on launch day. Like literally it was number one in all books, not just a little subcategory. And this was possible because first of all, he had already a very well working funnel that was proven before the product launch. Secondly, because we used both Facebook ads and podcast interviews in combination. So when you do the two together, that's when it's really, really powerful. Of course, Facebook ads in and of themselves will be powerful as well. But you have to see that when somebody picks up a free book just because they saw a random ad, the long-term lifetime customer value will not be the same as somebody who heard you on a podcast or some kind of an interview where they got to really know who you are, what your methodology is, have that trust and that relationship built with you. And then they get into not only getting the book, but all your other services and products as well.
And that's great. Of course, Ryan is a good friend of our mutual friend, Ronnie.
Yeah.
And yeah, we helped him a little bit with with the actual writing of the book. So
exactly.
Yep. Well, what do you think I'm curious because you have such a unique background and point of view and a vantage point. What do you see as the biggest, I mean, so many coaches are struggling out there. What do you see as the biggest mistakes that people make when they get out there and try to, connect with clients and get more business?
In terms of doing interviews or in general?
Or just in terms of getting visibility and what they do for lead, because I know there are lots of coaches out there who say, okay, I guess I'll start getting out there and I'll start getting on podcasts or I'll start doing this or I'll start getting on teleseminars. What do you see as the biggest mistakes that people make?
Well, one thing is very often what I see is that people go without a very strategic plan. So, for example, they have a book that is coming out tomorrow, and now they think that, okay, I should.
Right.
So that's a little bit late. You want to have about 3 months of a lead time because for bigger shows, like, for example, Entrepreneur on Fire or Mixergy, they're so backed up that it's literally from the day the pitch is accepted until the interview is recorded. It's going to take you 3 months and another month to air it. So first of all, you have to have enough lead time. Secondly, if it's a situation like a book, for example, you have to have an offer on the back end because to break even with a book will be really tough unless you have some kind of a coaching program or a membership site or a done-for-you service or a product that you can sell after people get the book. So first, get enough lead time. Second is make sure that you have a back-end offer. And the third is go for a mix of bigger and smaller shows as well. Because again, we are not looking for that one-time hit from that one-time audience. Say if you go on Entrepreneur on Fire, yes, they get over 1 million downloads a month, and that will be definitely helpful for you. But it's not enough. What you want to do is go then deeper and use that interview, use that leverage that you have because he has a great following, and then plug it into the rest of your marketing. And the same goes for the smaller shows. In some of the smaller shows that I book my clients on, they might get, I don't know, maybe 50, 100 downloads a day. That not a lot at all, but I book them on those shows strategically because I know that host, for example, has an 8-figure business and he just does podcasting a little bit for fun and for networking reasons. And I know that he will be able to connect them with Jay Abraham, with Joe Polish, with et cetera, et cetera. So I can give my client a heads up that, hey, by the way, you want to be on this show because these are the connections that you stand to make here. So really look at it from a broader perspective. It's not just publicity for publicity's sake. It's how can you grow your network, your relationships, and then also how to use it as content with all these interviews that are basically being produced for you free of charge with a completely professional level. If you do say half an hour on an interview, that host or their team will spend 2 to 3 hours at the minimum, 4 to 5 times a month of the time that you're spending doing the interview to actually create everything. The show notes page, which is actually like a blog page for that interview, that will be good for your SEO as well. The custom graphics, maybe they give you a transcript. There's a lot of things that they will give you as ready to use content just because you've done the interview. So you have to think of it that, okay, I'm doing this half an hour, but I'm going to get all these things out of it. Now, how can I use it?
I love that. And at the top of the show, I'd mentioned that you have a quiz that people can take to see if PR and if this makes sense for them. Can you just say a little bit more? First of all, give people that link again, and then just say a little bit more about what that quiz is.
Definitely. So the link is borntoinfluence.com/assessment, or you can just go to borntoinfluence.com and click on the assessment tab in the navigation menu. It's a really fun, short little quiz. It's 12 yes or no questions, and it's literally asking you a few strategic things of what is the state of your business right now so that you can see immediately whether or not PR makes sense for you. Because publicity, as good as it is, it will only make sense in terms of leads and sales when you're ready for it. Your business has to be at a certain stage. So for example, you have to have a well-converting offer, right? One of the things that we talked about here. So when you do this quiz, it will actually lead you through it about a minute. Maybe it takes you a minute and a half to fill it out. And if it turns out that your business is not quite where it needs to be yet to really be able to benefit from publicity, it will give you a lot of strategies and advice on what you can do to be prepared for it, so that when you're ready, you'll really get the most bang for your buck on it. And again, the link is borntoinfluence.com/assessment, and it's a free quiz, really fun and really easy to do.
Esther Kiss, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your words of wisdom. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Doug.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I want to remind you, if you've not subscribed to the show, go ahead and go into iTunes and click the subscribe button, and you'll get new episodes each week, helping you to work less, earn more, and help more people through creative content marketing. Till next time, this is Doug Foresta at The Coach Singh Show.
Thank you for listening to The Coach Singh Show. Subscribe to us via iTunes, and please leave us a review. It helps us grow our awesome tribe. This show is brought to you by CoachSing.com's Speak to Publish book system. If your book is stuck in your head, we can help you get it out in just a dozen hours of your time. Go to CoachSing.com for more information. Have you joined the Coach Zingers community yet? You'll get exclusive access to private mastermind calls where you can get instant marketing help from industry experts. Plus, we'll help you forge deals and partnerships with other like-minded professionals. Go to CoachSing.com/community to join now.